Hi everybody, welcome back. We are here today with our guest, Alex Khokhlov, who is the co-founder and director of Power Production Management, or PPM, locally based here in Gainesville, Florida, solar company. And so we're going to spend some time talking about that and talking about his career and how he got to where he is. So, Alex, welcome to Principles of Entrepreneurship.
Thank you.
Wonderful to have you here with us today. So I always like to start off with, let's go really far back in time. As a child, did you see yourself as an entrepreneur and a business owner? Is that really where you thought you were going to end up?
Well, to answer that question honestly, probably years 3 to 7, I wanted to be a doctor.
Oh, fair point. Okay.
And then since then, as far as I remember myself, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Did you ever experiment? Did you ever dabble? Were you out, I don't know, were you ever out selling candy to friends or things of that nature?
Absolutely. I've had my little business ventures. By the time I was 14, I actually had a real store shelf where I would sell cell phone accessories at a market.
Wow, okay.
So I tried a little bit of that.
Was anybody in your family an entrepreneur? Did you see that? Or were they doctors and that was sort of the reason you wanted to become a doctor?
Actually, in my family, everyone were scientists.
Okay.
All the way to 3 generations back. So I was like the bad apple. The businessman.
Right, the businessman, right. How can you exploit the market like that? Yeah, right. Fair point. Okay, so you start to develop at an early age this sense of wanting to be an entrepreneur. You have a background in engineering. You have some science, right? So you have some experience in that space. Now, how do you settle in on this company, right? I think you said you were founded in roughly 2009. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
2009. Okay, so what leads you to the opportunity? I always talk about entrepreneurship as solving problems.
Right.
So presumably, there's a lot of people out there that maybe want now solar solutions, and there's not a lot of companies that provide them, or there are, but they don't do a very good job of it. So what's the gap in the market that leads you to this space?
Back in 2007, my business partner Jason Gonos and myself, we worked for University of North Florida. Don't hold it against us.
No, not at all.
And based here in Gainesville at Material Research Park.
Okay.
And we did different types of roadway research and data collection. He was working on retroreflective pavement marking, and I was working on skid resistance and data analysis. But it all came down to essentially developing better methods for testing roadways and analyzing them in such a way to appropriate funds for road construction to prevent fatalities down the road.
Got it.
And when we met, Jason was already exposed to solar energy. He was a mechanical engineering graduate here at UF, and I was more on the construction and business side. I ran small construction companies since I was 16 years old.
Wow, okay.
Then I went into engineering testing and got relocated to Florida for a job and kind of quickly evolved into that research position down the road.
Okay. And
Jason brought me into kind of his worldview of renewable energy and clean tech, and I really loved it. It's just such a neat concept. You know, there are no moving parts. It's clean. It works, and I quickly learned a lot about it. The gap that we filled in the market back in that day, there were multiple solar thermal contractors in the space.
Okay.
Everybody was doing pool heating panels, solar hot water panels.
Fair point.
But very few companies actually did PV or photovoltaic or solar electric panels. And we went out there and as a consulting company started converting businesses from thermal to PV.
Okay.
So we would go into a business that had established operations and would essentially install residential commercial solar thermal systems and bring in supply lines, tech, engineering, salesmanship, everything required to go out and pursue that new segment, new business line. And we've done it for 2 businesses successfully, and then eventually we got tired of doing it for other people and we opened our own company.
So you have full-time jobs before you do this?
Yes.
And all of a sudden you decide, okay, we think there's an opportunity here, we're going to go become consultants for a while. Was it a hard decision to walk away? Was it fairly apparent that, okay, there's a cash flow stream here, or was there some risk in your mind or some nervousness?
At that time, I really feel like we we're in the right point in our lives to pursue a risk. Today, with family and children, I'd probably think a lot differently.
Fair point.
But at that time, you feel like the world is at your feet. You can do anything.
Yeah.
And you really want to go where your heart is.
Yeah.
And kind of carve your own way.
So in this journey along the way, when you first started out, service business as a consultant, there's probably not a lot of startup costs. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, the barrier to entry is very low because you utilize existing resources. I mean, those guys just handed us the keys to the business.
Right.
Like you come in, you build trust, you show expertise, you show a case, successful case once, and they let you do it again and again because they're the beneficiary. Ultimately, you're working for them. Although there is an end user that gets to your product.
Yep.
Your client is that business that you come into.
Fair point.
And all of a sudden, they see all these changes. Like one business finally had insurance ability for all of their employees. First time in 30 years.
Wow.
So it was new money. It was new breath of fresh air for a lot of those businesses.
Were there, along this journey, were there any changes in regulation, in the regulatory environment, that was speeding the ecosystem towards this space, that was helping you open that gap, if you will? Was any of that going on out there at the same time?
Absolutely. We lovingly call the solar industry the solar coaster because things change so much, so quickly. At the time in 2007, there was a state rebate that would help new solar electric systems go online with a substantial refund.
Okay.
Shortly after that, 2008 crisis happened, and the rebate went away.
Fair point.
So we found ourselves door knocking in Orlando, asking people if they want to buy a solar system.
Oh my gosh.
People were yelling at us like, "I lost all my money. This house is being foreclosed on.
Yeah.
My 401k is empty.
Yeah.
Why do I need to save $30 on an electric bill? Get out of here."
Yeah. Fair point.
And so on and on and on we went, and it was just like a dead end. I think we sold like 4 systems all year in 2008, and maybe like 5 in 2009. So
you mentioned Orlando. Were you targeting Orlando? Did you feel like that was
we
the
had
large
2
market?
offices.
You did. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So one here and one down there.
Yeah.
Fair point. But you pretty much work in between Gainesville and Orlando.
North Central and Central Florida.
Okay.
Like we don't go South Central. We don't go like much south of Orlando at this time for residential. Commercial, we do statewide.
Okay. Fair point. So eventually the market comes back and things recover a bit and now you're off and running. You said you officially established the company as it is now in 2009.
Correct.
What was your entity structure? What was it then? What is it now? Is it the same?
It's the same. Yep. It remained unchanged. It's an S Corp.
It's an S Corp.
Yep. So Jason and I are equal shareholders. State of Florida.
Okay.
So essentially, it's an equal partnership. Those can be tricky because you really have to have the right type of personality to work with. Because if you have a gridlock with 50% shareholders disagreeing with the other, you really have to kind of approach that carefully.
Sure.
And we felt like right from the beginning that we were the right fit. Like we could accomplish that. And so far in 15 years, it's proven to be true.
It very much, just initially in my mind, reminds me of Rich and Darren at Infinite Energy. Like the journey they took, sounds very similar. Okay, so you guys are off and running. You got your S Corp going. And now you're tackling the marketplace, and so it's just the two of you in the beginning.
Correct.
Okay, and so how does the business start to go now? Right, I mean, you're focusing on some sort of marketing plan. What does that look like out there?
Well, it was very grassroots in the beginning.
Okay.
We would specifically reach out to local community. We would walk into. I remember getting our first commercial project when the guy writes us $150,000 check, and we look at it. What? And he goes, "If you don't perform, I'll break your legs." Okay. And we're like, "Ha ha ha!" And
he wasn't
joking.
kidding.
Okay. So in the way, Gainesville,
good motivator.
Yeah. Since then, we've done multiple projects for that client. He's a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
He was kidding.
Yeah.
Fair point. But I feel like Gainesville has a very special heart as far as business to business relationship concerned. I really feel like bringing things off the ground in a larger city, and I've done business, say, in Baltimore, Maryland prior to this, or some in Orlando in the process.
Sure.
Gainesville is an incredible incubator in itself.
Yeah.
Because people are very approachable, business owners are very approachable, and there seem to be, maybe because of the dynamic with being a student town, some some warmth to business relationships, I would say.
Got it. Okay. So you're out there, you're getting job after job. When you started, were you focused on commercial first, or did you have a blend right off the bat?
We had a blend right off the bat. I mean, in all honesty, we would take any job we can get at that time.
Now, I would assume that the bang for the buck when you get commercial jobs is bigger, right? Because the residential, you're doing one after one after one after one. Maybe would it be fair to say that commercial jobs are larger in scope?
That is correct. So an average commercial project now is about $500,000. An average residential project is about $40,000.
Okay.
And
is the selling cycle longer for commercial?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the selling cycle for commercial may be 6 months to 5 years easily.
Wow. Okay.
And speaking of Rich and Darren,
yes, right.
They did install a solar project.
They had the parking lot, I think.
Right, and also on a new building, we had a chance to install.
Gotcha.
So it's people need time to learn about you, to trust you, and with new technologies, the adoption curve is still it hasn't really started exponentially growing.
Right, so we're still maybe ahead of the chasm, or we're just over the chasm, and we're moving beyond the early adopters.
We're right there, right about to go pretty crazy.
So you mentioned this notion of credibility, right? You're out there, you're a new company, you're doing good work, your legs aren't broken, so that's a good sign. How are you differentiating yourself? Are there competitors? You mentioned this competitive assessment project that was done for you. And how do you differentiate yourself from those competitors?
Well, in the solar industry, you have quite a few competitors.
Okay.
First of all, you're competing against the status quo, the utility.
Fair point.
Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I must have a solar system.
Right.
If you have a window broken, you'll replace the window. If your AC went out, you're going to call the AC man.
Yeah.
If your roof is leaking, you're going to call the roof. Nobody's going to call the solar guy because they have a desperate need to call a solar guy.
Fair point.
So it's an education-based product.
Mm-hmm.
So you're competing against just flipping the switch and things working.
Yeah.
Right? Which is extremely difficult competition because you don't have a problem statement unless you can establish a problem statement.
Mm-hmm.
There are clearly cost advantages, environmental advantages to using solar energy, and it's a true alternative now where it doesn't cost more to switch. It's just a matter of going through the process because of how it's financed and packaged. For residential home, they can simply pay their solar loan instead of their electric bill, and all of a sudden they're saving money. They're improving their house value without increasing their property tax. Like all these massive benefits.
Sure.
Positive cash flow from the second they turn that thing on, and yet we still have to go out there and spend months educating.
Yeah.
Because it's a new thing, right? So that's competitor one. Competitor one is the utility. Competitor two is a solar guy next to you trying to do the same thing, capturing the same client.
Right. So you educate me as to all the benefits, and then I go to somebody else.
Exactly.
Which hopefully doesn't happen.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, it does.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's just part of doing business.
Would you argue, you mentioned two sort of value propositions there. One is, hey, it just makes sense economically. And then two is, I want to be supporting the alternative industry. Does one carry more weight than the other, or is it really just a mixture?
Well, those actually fare across different clientele differently. Some may be very techno-oriented. They love new technology. They have the newest phone, newest Tesla, newest energy efficiency, newest they see. Solar is just a natural thing for them to do.
The early adopters again.
Yeah, so technology, lovers. Then you have the environmental people that basically refuse to pollute.
Yeah.
They don't want to leave a footprint that is detrimental today, tomorrow, kids, grandkids, for the earth in general. They also have their mind set. They'll just pick the person they can trust and they'll move forward. They want environment. They're going to assess the environmental benefit, make sure it's real, and move forward. And then you have kind of balanced people that look at all of those aspects, including the financial aspect. And you have dollar-only guys.
Yeah. Okay.
It literally is, if it saves me money, if it makes financial sense, I'm doing it. If not, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Talk to me. Talk dollars to me.
Yeah, fair point. I suspect there's probably a lot of business. On the commercial side, that's probably a big deal, I would imagine.
Correct, but return requirements, tolerance for balance sheet, and things like that, they're also different across different businesses.
Yeah. So you do installation. Is there sort of a service revenue driver as well for the product, or once it's in, it should be up and running?
Solar business is terrible about recurring revenue because these things don't break. They work really well.
And they go on for 30 plus years, right?
30 plus years, design life.
Yeah.
Once it's in, and that's basically the premise of the entire design and engineering. And if you try to make them break down. It's breaking the entire value proposition.
Yeah, fair point. Okay. When you started out, you were, and maybe you still are, you were taking off-the-shelf technology and doing installations?
Correct.
Okay. And in the beginning, were you and Jason out there on the roofs doing the installations, or did you have people working for you?
We have installed thousands of
Yes.
panels ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suspect maybe by this point you're not out there on the roofs anymore. But we can get to that in a moment. So do you now today, do you manufacture any product? I saw the shop out back. I'm not entirely sure what that's for, or is it still you take things that are developed off the shelf and you go in and do the installations?
The applications are custom, while the products are standardized.
Okay.
So it's like, crude analogy, a surgeon uses the same scalpel, but they do a different procedure every time. So they use off-the-shelf technology, but the application is very different.
Got it.
So every house, every electrical system that we do requires a very unique set of attributes, design considerations, and criteria.
Mm-hmm. Okay, gotcha. So at what point do you hire employee number 1, number 2? And how does that go?
Well, strength and weaknesses analysis. We were very kind of sales. We've done well in sales. We weren't very good with admin.
Okay.
So we're like, we need an office manager. We need an admin.
Yeah.
So that was our first employee at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the third attempt at hiring that employee was successful because we didn't know how to hire either.
Fair point. Gotcha. Okay. How big is the company now today in terms of
30
people?
people.
30 people. Do you still have the office in Orlando, or are you just based here?
No, we're just based here.
Just based here. Okay, gotcha. So let's talk about the other big gorilla in the room. You mentioned the crash of 2008, and then of course now who would have seen a global pandemic coming along? So first and foremost, what kind of impact did that have on you? Did you have to take any PPM along the way? Oh, that's funny. PPE, I guess, is what we call it, right? I can't even remember the acronym. I'm confusing them all. Did you have to go through that?
Paycheck protection
Yes,
program?
exactly.
PPP?
Right. PPP,
yeah.
sorry.
We had to take PPP,
Okay.
and because we were very kind of payroll heavy,
Yes.
it really helped us
For sure.
to get through.
Okay. Did you see an impact on the revenue side? That is, was there a shift up and down versus?
We almost went out of business.
Oh wow. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
I'll be honest.
It
was a pretty drastic experience because as you're growing, you start decoupling. Once your kind of sales die down, but your infrastructure keep growing, and you have a backlog. Once the sales die down,
yes,
you don't have time to react.
Yeah.
So you have decoupling of overhead, and all of a sudden you find yourself overspending, and overspending more just to service the backlog that you have, and then you have a complete drop off.
Understand.
So what do you do?
Okay.
Do you wait it out?
Yeah.
Do you fire everybody?
Yeah.
Right. So they're hard decisions. Do you find something in between? Do you mitigate risks by maintaining a core skeleton personnel?
Sure.
So that's what we did.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's how we survived. We essentially have downsized to just core 11 people.
Sure. And I can imagine you did 1 round or 2 rounds of the PPP?
2.
You did 2 rounds. Okay, got it. Now the other thing, so the second thing I'll mention then with COVID has been this notion of supply chain issues. Are you seeing that impact in the business? Dramatically. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, our orders for solar panels
lag
get
time
canceled.
and costs.
Yes, we've undergone a 20% increase on general components and 30% increase on solar modules.
Wow.
And our orders are getting canceled by suppliers after they're fully paid for.
Oh, wow.
That's how bad of a supply chain issue we're having. Literally, we send them hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
Then they call us and be like, sorry, we're going to have to refund you.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Month later.
Yes.
When it's time to build.
When it's time to build, right. Wow, that's a tremendous challenge. So you see the market bouncing back, jobs are there, but you can't get the product.
Exactly.
Oh, my gosh. What a crazy situation.
And the labor market.
Well, that was going to be my third point, right? From a hiring perspective, what's that been like?
Well, that's really where I think the company culture and building kind of good, solid foundation for your employees really counts.
Yeah.
So our installers are paid well above living wage.
Mm-hmm.
We have time off, paid time off. We have medical insurance, health, dental, so on and so forth. We have some flexibility, and we try to cultivate a culture that is close to like family culture as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But with wage market where it is, somebody called me and told me about a month ago, and they said, I'm going to go work for Walmart. I said, why are you going to go work for Walmart? It's like, you're going to pay me $20+ an hour, and I'm going to be in air conditioning.
Yeah, right. Fair point.
So it is an interesting time.
Yeah. No, I can imagine. That's a challenge nobody saw coming, but it's definitely forced people to be creative with how they potentially approach these. And I think you're right. I think company culture is really what's held so many.
And genuinely retention.
Together.
Yeah, as we all know, cost of retraining personnel is tremendous.
Sure.
So if an office manager or admin of any type of managerial role in this company leaves, I would say the cost to retrain and reintegrate a new individual after hiring is well above $50,000.
Wow.
In lost opportunity, time delays, and physical, retraining. So it's very important to prop your employees out.
Yeah, for sure.
Make sure they don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So this journey along the way, did you ever take any external funding, whether it be investors or banks, to get the business up and running, or was it all bootstrapped and done organically?
For the first 5 years, it was all bootstrapped. Essentially, our clients had funded our business. So let me tell you a quick story. Our first client, 2009, we're literally out of gas money.
Yeah.
Okay, it's rough.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because when you go into something like this and you make this commitment, you stay in it and you build your business, and then all of a sudden you get all these job offers.
Yeah.
That's one thing that happens to every entrepreneur. As soon as they go into business, they start getting job offers.
Of course.
And you're barely buying food, barely paying rent, you're barely commuting, and then they're sending you like really attractive job offers from all the beautiful places, California.
Yes, sure.
And so we're driving to this guy. We're like, if we don't make this sale, and it's been a couple of months of really trying,
this is it. This is our shot.
Yeah, there's gonna be a problem. So we show up and we brought everything. We brought a computer and a printer and all the scanning devices, and we just built the entire proposal and printed out the contracts and drawings. And they look at each other and look at us. They look at the proposal and they say, "Yeah, it looks good. We only have one problem." And we're like, "What? What's the problem? Can we pay up front?"
Oh gosh! Yes, please. So cash is king, and cash flow is important.
Right.
Getting paid up front probably made a huge
They've
difference.
become like the friends, almost the mascots of the business.
That's
we bring them to all our special events.
Wow.
Right? They're incredible.
Wow,
Yeah.
Interesting. Speaking of which, from a cash flow perspective, is there cyclicality throughout the year in this business, or is it pretty steady?
Yeah, it seems to accelerate dramatically towards Q4 due to tax credit expiration. Or currently the tax credits are going down; they're slowly being phased out, and we expect that to continue. Currently, the tax credit is 26%. Next year is going to go to 22%, and it's going to slowly phase out. So, and Q1 is essentially like the death zone that you have to survive.
Fair point. Okay, gotcha. You mentioned sort of jokingly you barely had money for gas. We know gas is going up and up and up. How has that impacted your business, moving trucks and people around? And where do you think the energy market will go?
Well, the energy market will continue to rise, continue to increase. Unfortunately, we're dealing with an unprecedented war, putting a stranglehold on some energy markets in Europe. Things are changing, and it's hard to tell exactly where we're going to end up. But one thing for certain is energy costs will continue to rise for some time. Average utility inflation nationwide is around 3.5% to 4%, depending on the location.
Okay.
It's been 8 to 10% for the last 3 years, and now it's expected to accelerate further. So.
Got it. Okay, gotcha. So you're North Central Florida primarily, I think you said, generally speaking. Do you have plans are you looking to grow the business further? What are your thoughts on the development in the future?
As the market grows, so we shrink. In a way, as the opportunities grow and become more available, we're able to reduce our service radius while increasing the revenues. And so we really enjoy opportunities to service immediate vicinity and become more Gainesville focused. It used to be, say, 2016. We were the largest installer here.
Okay.
And yet we did 80% of our work out of town.
Interesting.
And now we're double the size of that. And we do 80% here.
Here, okay.
And we really want to capture the local market.
Yeah, gotcha. No, that makes sense. And the local market still has plenty of room to grow.
Right. And back to your guest question, while mobilization costs, of course, are very heavy on the service business,
sure,
they're not as heavy on large deployment side. So if you go to build a $40,000 job and you're going to do it in a day or 2 days, commuting isn't going to necessarily dramatically change your business model.
So what's been the biggest challenge in getting this business up and running?
I think...
And you've mentioned a couple moments where, gosh, from the beginning through the crash in the market to COVID.
The biggest opportunities and the chokeholds on a business are in the business owner's head. It's largely about the leadership.
Yeah.
So if you're in a very unfavorable situation and you're by yourself and you have to, create a positive thinking momentum to achieve a positive outcome, that's leadership that you have to kind of impose on yourself, right? If you have 30 people and you have an unfavorable situation, you have to show them kind of that things will be okay, right?
Yeah.
You have to. So in large part, I think the hardest thing is to maintain the mental attitude of an entrepreneur.
Do you have mentors that you work with or you leverage?
Not directly. I'm very, fortunate to have a lot of friends that I would probably consider my mentors, but I don't have a dedicated mentor that I go to, say on a regular basis.
But people you can talk to and you can bounce ideas off of.
Absolutely.
For sure. And so to that end also, how do you maintain your education, I guess, if you will, right? How do you continually stay up on leadership and business management, etc.?
Personally, I've been trying to develop in professional sense in a very basic way where, for example, I acquired electrical license, I became a licensed electrician, I have a solar license, I've at some point got national certification for PV. Now I'm on the board with Florida Solar Energy Industry Association.
Okay.
Kind of watching the market, talking to other great people in the industry, thinking a little bit beyond what our business is like and a little bit more towards what it's like to run a business of this type in the state of Florida, trying to aid the business concept and the business industry as a whole. And on the personal side, I love sports. Like I do triathlons. My next goal, I want to climb Kilimanjaro in February next year.
Oh, rock on. Okay.
So
awesome.
Little mental breaks to go out there and do something.
Yeah, I did want to ask about that. How do you, as a director of a company, how do you maintain your mental health? I know we were talking about some of Mickey Singer's books. Is it sports? Is that what you do primarily? Spend time with your family? Make sure to take breaks throughout the day? What do you do?
It's breaks throughout the day is not my virtue.
Fair point.
From the moment I open my eyes to the moment I close my eyes, I don't seem to. A couple of things that I found very helpful. One is yoga.
Okay.
2 is reading.
Yep.
And 3 is...
Read for pleasure.
Read for pleasure,
okay.
Yes. And sometimes that could be a professional book that you read for pleasure.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
if
for
you
sure.
love doing something and you read it and you enjoy it and you're hungry for it, it is reading for pleasure.
Yeah.
And the activities, just going out there and going into the mountains or going to run some big distance or something like that. It's really helpful.
Okay. Triathlon, you're an Ironman?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, awesome. That's great. You mentioned reading for pleasure, reading for fun or what have you. I do like to get some of these book recommendations. What are 1 or 2 that you would recommend to folks out there?
Well, I highly recommend Mickey Singer's Untethered Soul.
Okay.
That book has changed my life.
Sure, okay.
I also recommend Tony Robbins. He has some very basic tools for getting in the right state, because at times when you're in a critical situation, you just need basic mechanics to get yourself in the right state, to pick yourself up and go. Tony Robbins is very useful for that. Unleash the Giant Within, Money Master the Game is a very good book for personal finance and some minor business finance.
Okay.
Yeah, and as I've grown kind of emotionally throughout the years as an entrepreneur, the challenge that kind of adds on and creates tremendous opportunity for growth is children.
Yeah. I was going to ask
raising
you
kids.
How you balance your life between your family and entrepreneurship endeavor.
In a way, they are always balanced.
Yeah.
Because if your business and personal life are purpose-driven, you do find that harmony over time. And striving, I don't think anyone will go out there and say, I'm a great parent, but striving to be a good parent and taking steps in that direction pushes your growth and brings lessons from raising the young ones that you can use for yourself and with your colleagues and partners and in the business in general.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I've got a 3.5-year-old daughter, same thing. I think I've grown a lot in these 3 years as an individual. Did you guys write a business plan in the beginning?
We have written a very basic manifesto.
Manifesto.
Radical word, right?
Yes, right, exactly.
As to what our final destination is, and we're like, we're gonna essentially do whatever it takes. We're gonna build projects, sell things online, educate people, consult, but we want to be right there.
Yeah.
And we wanted to develop a large-scale solar power plants and get into kind of cogeneration utility business. Wow. That was our goal from day one.
You had a huge vision.
Yeah, that was the vision. We didn't know exactly how we're going to get there.
Fair point. Well, and I think a lot of times, right, it's you learn as you go.
Right.
It's experiential. These are living documents that are probably going to change the minute you finish them.
Absolutely. But yeah, having some compelling future, I think, is part of that mental game.
Yeah.
When you have not necessarily all the steps of the plan, but you have the outcome that you're striving for. If you have a clear vision on what is it that you're going to be doing, you will find a way. A lot of times, your brain, will activate in the right direction. Yep. It's really true with the goal setting. A couple of years in this business, we have not set the goals.
Yeah.
And so
it makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference. And other than 2020, every single year we set a goal with kids.
Fair point. Okay, so yeah, to everybody out there, goal setting is huge.
Goal setting is huge.
2 more questions before we wrap up. So the first is, how do you and Jason manage day-to-day operations? Do you have one activity and he has another? Is it a blend? How have you sort of divided up roles?
For over a decade, we were essentially redundant. You could essentially remove one of us from operations and things wouldn't skip a beat.
Okay.
In a way, it was rudimentary, but also liberating in a way that one of us could go on vacation, knowing that things are going to be taken care of.
For sure.
It creates a hodgepodge of leadership structure where, some employees have 2 parents, there could be conflicting interests or conflicting orders. So we separated responsibilities as of last year. Jason is more focused on the commercial side of things.
Got it.
And I'm more focused on the residential side of things. So when we make a decision, we look at it, is it commercial, residential, commercial? Okay. You make a decision.
Got it. Okay, fair point. So last question for everybody out there. We have all these entrepreneurial-minded students. What final piece of advice might you give them?
Choose your business and your business activities based on who you are. If you love what you do, or the result you're going after is very important to you, you will succeed. You will find a way to succeed. If you pick up your business line because of a trend or success story from somebody else, it may or may not be the right thing for you. Play it safe.
Yeah.
Find what you love.
Follow your passion. Alex, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for talking with us today.
Thank you, Jamie.
We'll see everybody next time. Thank you.